work in finance. God bless, no, this not by chance. Don't dab me, you're not my man. Don't at me, you're not my man. Mama said don't buy it if you cannot buy it twice. I cop by the tools and I don't pump fake with the price. Always on the grind, I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me now by sight. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like bandage, I slide out landish. V12 ranging, all black like that.
So we all know exercise. You know exercise, right? We all know that exercise, and I believe more so high intensity exercise, releases all that natural prozac that you've got waiting around in there, to the point where Australia as an entity actually prescribes exercise as the first step to helping people deal with depression if they're also sedentary. It also helps control cortisol release so that we feel less stressed, and a lot of different types of exercise can also be a form of social self-care, helping us to make new connections and help with mental health through belonging and human relationships. Unless you're me.
Never know the time, I'm never clocking in. Wildflower, I'm like Denzel, I've been the men on fire. I'm hot lava, you are not scarred, you are proudly, I'm a real to the coffin field. Heart chill from all this talking real. Recent life feel like a highlight reel. Currently thumbing through currency, I'm from the avenue, bitch, I'ma get it regardless. I told little baby to slide with that lotus, pull up with the garden, my guard is down till you come around, trying to hold you some. Give a how you feel, I don't owe you nothing. Now you trying to make amends, I'm just trying to get the fortunes. Trying to cut my mama fortress, pop might pull up in a Porsche. I used to be quiet, was timid. They used to catch me skipping courses. Now they snapping portrait. Hard head, but never forced it. I got a pin it shine like it's supposed to. The way I deliver, they posed to. My neck got a compass to know where we going. It sound like I'm stepping through portals. I'm off of that poison, the devil be calling, but I just ignore it, hit for it. The task force told me God. Okay, yeah, you asked for it. Wait, the task force told me go. Okay, yeah, you asked for it. Wave.
I'm kidding. I practice martial arts as well as practicing being a massive hermit. It's all about balance, baby. I'm gonna miss you when you're gone. But where does mixed martial arts specifically fall on the help or hinder scale when it comes to mental health? And how does it change between being a hobbyist and making it to the big leagues? With the stigma slowly shifting, loads more MMA athletes are opening up about their own struggles. I'm talking about what's helped them, including 2 fighters who are facing each other this weekend at the UFC Fight Night. Both Lando Vannata and Charles Jourdain have previously tried to shine a spotlight on issues of mental health within the MMA world. And this just means we get a new perspective on a previously elusive topic.
What up, guys? Max Bless Holloway here, and mental health to me is super important.
We all have our health to look after, and we all have like our physical health, but a lot of people neglect their mental health.
Mental health is very important across the board.
Taking care of your mental health is everything. Just overall, in terms of keeping myself grounded, I feel that taking care of my mental health is just extremely imperative to having a healthy, happy life.
We're talking about mental health.
I think mental health is very important.
This is Charles Jourdain. I'm a professional fighter from the UFC. I just want to talk to you about something that's very important for me. It's mental health.
So let's start with the art rather than the business. Learning any new skill, challenging your mind in new ways is going to help you to cultivate your mind. Like, get a big old plow in there and really churn it over to grow new thoughts. I don't know how plows work. The men do a really great lunch though, I'll tell you that. We're off topic. But the mind-body connection that comes from training martial arts, along with how fucking hard it is, means you get about 10 plows all going at the same time in the field in your mind. field of dreams. You can learn to self-regulate your emotions, you become more introspective, willpower increases, and studies have shown that there are benefits to your attention span, focus, neuroplasticity, mental clarity. This deep connection of your mind to the corresponding physical actions means you can reach new levels of mental awareness. Loads of good stuff in the old brain box, essentially, in summary. And it's not just about mental agility and performance, but resilience as well. Life is tough. We're all stressed all the time, right? Under pressure, no. And these stressors can act as a trigger to mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, schizophrenia. And some researchers do think that MMA can help people to cope with the environmental factors that lead to these conditions, or even to alleviate or counteract the foundational biological factors. I've heard of numerous people getting into martial arts because of a mental health condition and finding great release. And to a point, these benefits do seem to increase the longer and harder you train. But I wonder if there is a point where it does start to plateau or even reverse. And I wonder if that point has anything to do with a tipping in the balance between the pressure rising and numerous knocks to the noggin.
Take care, you guys, melons.
So let's talk about that pressure first. When you sign that pro fighter contract, you are accepting increased pressures into your life. Pressures from the organization to put on exciting fights, to keep fighting, to always say yes, to live by the rule anyone, anywhere, anytime. Pressures of celebrity, such as criticism, lack of privacy, even death threats. Pressures of performance, anxiety, wondering where your next paycheck is going to come from and how much it will be. In 2021, Beth Correa retired from the sport indefinitely. Is that what I mean? Like, she's not planning on ever coming back indefinitely? Probably. Who knows? She's not planning on ever coming back. She said she couldn't take any more of the pressure and misery of her career, and she had a decent career. But the mental aspect of the game, she called it psychological torture, was not worth everything that she did love about it. She said, I couldn't stand people demanding high performance and doing everything perfect. I got more sad than happy. In the past, I saw it as a challenge. I'll do better tomorrow. I'll train better tomorrow. Then I started going home sad, had no desire to train, and that's bad. When you get to that point, it's no longer pleasurable for you.
Why check I show you and I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no face, don't need no phonies, no. Need no snakes, no only homies down for show. On go. Get a book and get the front end, we load up and roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a winner.
But the interesting thing is, she said she would do bare knuckle or boxing. It's just MMA that's torturous. And when you start to look into it, as I know you will, many MMA stars have brought up the difficulties associated with performance, the environment in which they have to perform, and a big old bright spotlight on them. James Gallagher, a young fighter, perhaps paving the way for more openness in the sport and even changing the game, says that fighters are 100% more susceptible to mental health issues because they are expected to have a tough guy image. He said he found himself having panic attacks during training in the gym, but was fine walking out to sold out crowds. Darren Till recently spoke out about having thoughts as to how to fake an injury before the Gastelum fight, because in preparation he was watching Gastelum knock guys out, having just suffered a brutal knockout himself. And the anxiety built to a point that he didn't think he was going to be able to overcome it. Megan Anderson, Nick Diaz, Phil DeFries, Lando Vannata all have similar stories. And everyone's different, so of course you don't have to look too far to also find stories of fighters who are fine during training camp and then the anxiety really hits during the fight. Cowboy Cerrone, Wonderboy Thompson, Nate Diaz. Nate said that even walking out with his brother as a cornerman brings back those same feelings, even though he's not even about to fight. And of course, the limelight doesn't just bring about anxiety. A sport that's so focused on how much you weigh, and with most fighters dangerously dropping weight in order to be the bigger, stronger fighter on the night, opens up opportunities for eating disorders to surface and develop. Ronda Rousey spoke about this early in her career, before she was actually fighting MMA, but during her judo career. She said she was always conscious of her weight as it's part of her job, but being so young and having to stay a certain weight made her feel like she was entirely alone. She thought she was weak because she was having problems with it mentally, and she thought having those problems made her a bad person. Then of course there's the mental pressures that come with losses. John Kavanagh has spoken out about the effect that this has on fighters due to the fact you're only fighting a few times a year. If you lose, you might be sitting in that loss for 6 months, and that would be tough on anyone. Imagine you rocking up to work, making a mistake and having to sit at home and stew in it for 6 months before being given an opportunity to redeem yourself, to prove your worth, to get paid again, and long term hang on to your job. It's gotta eat away at you. Very recently, in the run-up to next weekend's fight, whenever you're watching this, either very soon or long gone, Marlon Oliveira spoke to the MMA Hour, saying that the back-to-back losses he suffered in 2017 and 2018 were really hard on him mentally. He was depressed, he thought his career was over, he thought he didn't have what it takes to beat these guys.
I got enemies, I got God's gift, so they envy me. Got some friends out in Memphis like I'm Aubrey. Got some friends fought for orange like some autumn leaves.
This sport is cutthroat. It takes years of dedication and hard work and blood, sweat and tears just to get to the professional level. And once you're there, you have to fight so hard, literally, every day to even keep your job, to be able to provide for yourself and your family, let alone climb the ladder and actually make some real money. The higher you climb, the harder it is, the more is expected from you. And the longer you climb, the more likely it is you're gonna suffer some repeated head trauma for your troubles. And if you cut weight, you drain the fluid that protects that little old brain box, and you become more susceptible to said trauma. CTE is a brain condition that regularly shows up as slurred speech, memory loss, trouble sleeping, dementia and depression. And it's linked to repeated, often unnoticed mini concussions. The science suggests it's not even the big knockouts that should make you go, maybe I should go see a doctor, get this checked out, make sure I'm all alright. It's the everyday knocks you receive in sparring, the strikes that land but don't knock you down. That's why it's so dangerous. But of course it's not as simple as saying these little concussions lead to mental health problems. Firstly, it's very difficult to prove a direct causal relationship. We don't know that the athletes weren't prone to issues despite knocks to the head. And of course, the money doesn't want this to be proved. The organizations would find themselves in a lot of trouble if this was to happen. In fact, Diego Sanchez was let go from the UFC after 16 years of very fun fights because his team wouldn't release his medical records ahead of his fight, and according to Sanchez, the UFC wanted him to sign a contract saying that he wasn't experiencing any neurological problems when he was, and that he doesn't have any long-term health issues from fighting in the UFC for 16 years when he does. Now, whether it's related to CTE or not, more and more fighters, loads of them, are talking about suffering from depression. Now, this isn't necessarily brought on by anything other than navigating the tricky rapids of life, but it is important that these tough guys are being more open. Robert Whittaker said he tried to tough it out and it just ate at him. Jeremy Stevens has talked about the suicidal thoughts he had after the Aldo loss. GSP spoke about carrying too much pressure for too long, both on his hard hike up the league and as a lasting champ. Yes, I am going to show that photo at absolutely every opportunity. Get used to it. He felt guilty about having a dream life and still feeling depressed. He worried what people would think of him. and I was trying to look for some GSP workout inspiration. I scrolled and I was like, okay, gymnastics, probably not gonna happen. That's calisthenics, more likely. Aqua aerobics, I don't think that's what he calls it, but you know, it's got them water weight things. I don't really have access to a pool. Bit of track and field potential. Hang on, what the heck is this?
Hey everyone, I'm Georges Saint-Pierre. Welcome to my Rush Fit warm-up.
So I guess we're about to find out what it takes to be Rush Fit.
Fit 4 days, that's for sure though. Grinding from the grip, no shame, take a photo. Time to take a trip, we head north to the border. Say you filling up, I'm my favorite type of hoarder. I got kids to feed, I got enemies, I got guys give, so they envy me. Got some friends out in Memphis like I'm Aubrey. Got some friends fought for orange like some autumn leaves. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt, I vanish, I slide out landish. V12 Benji, all black like Batman. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt, I vanish, I slide out landish. V12 Benji, all black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like Batman. All black like Batman.
I don't know if it was obvious by how much I was smiling during that, but that, just do it. Cruz, Adesanya, Souza, so many big names in the sport have started to open up about their own struggles and fight that stigma that GSP was so worried about. Now, all these athletes started talking after the fact. I'm not saying that they no longer struggle at all, but they do all tend to recall the bad times from a better place. They've all at least made steps to recovery when they feel comfortable to talk about it. But for some, they never made those steps. They perhaps never had the support system, the opportunities for help, or just to talk, the doctors, the medications, whatever it was, and things didn't turn around for them, or at least not for a long, long time. Now, I don't want to say too late, because fighting is not the be-all and end-all. There has been a lot of career potential lost to debilitating mental health issues, but beyond that, and much more importantly than that, there have been lives lost in both the final sense of the word and just the passing of time. Fighters like Paulo Filho, whose life for the best part of a decade was a train wreck of drug abuse and partying. He had multiple car accidents, at one point he was shot, and throughout was battling with suicidal thoughts. He once fought high on cocaine, another time he had to pull out literally just before the fight due to a panic attack. But in recent years he's started teaching both martial arts and his own coping mechanisms, but he has left the bright lights behind. Justin Levens and his wife Sarah were both found shot dead in their apartment, with the verdict being it was a murder-suicide. Their bedroom was said to be littered with painkillers and antidepressants. Jason Mayhem Miller had a long stretch of issues with substance abuse and poor mental health, which he said he found himself unable to admit to anyone, leading to his arrest after being found naked in a church that he'd broken into and vandalized. And it didn't get better for a long time after that. The following year, he found himself in a 4-hour standoff with the SWAT team because he refused to open the door to police. And after he did manage to turn things around and make a lot of progress for a lot of years, he was arrested again in 2021 due to falling back into bad habits because of the stresses of quarantine and a toxic relationship. Tony Ferguson, obviously still an active fighter, but being treated for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder after what his wife called a mental break in 2011, and has had troubling incidents as recently as 2019, where he took his family to a desert with a raft because he believed a great flood was coming. There was a Russian fighter called Datsik who was chaotic inside and outside of the cage, and after attempting an armed robbery he was psychologically evaluated and found to be schizophrenic. And recently we saw Erwin Rivera make his emotional return to Eagle FC after suffering a mental break linked to untreated bipolar disorder and not being able to sleep for days on end, where he believed a higher power was telling him to kill his sisters, which he attempted to do. He spent time in jail before being released on the condition that he continued on with his treatment, both therapy and medication, and is under constant supervision. Like I said at the start, it is tricky to prove a direct causal relationship between the many risks associated with performing a dangerous sport at a high level and mental health conditions. That doesn't mean that there's not more that organisations and commissions can be doing to reduce the risk. Making weight cuts a thing of the past, for one. Frequent assessments of brain health is another step that should be taken. After a certain age, the UFC requires every fighter to have an MRI before a fight, but why not everyone? This would at least allow anomalies to be flagged and treated earlier. But the onus doesn't just fall on the employers and the commissions, of course. So what are high-level fighters doing to protect their own mental health? And what can you take from this to look after yourself better? A big trend we've seen recently is removing sparring from training camps. This trend is definitely, if not started by, has been championed most loudly by Max Holloway of late. Like I said up top, it's not necessarily the knockouts that lead to the problems. It's the continuous little knocks. Hard sparring is definitely linked to this, heritage tough guy image. Maybe more so than it is to, results and science. It was used by all the legends of the game. Wanderlei Silva and Shogun Hewitt notoriously used to go hard multiple times a week. But with the new guard coming in, we're seeing the old traditions go out. Flow sparring is something that's become a big part of Conor McGregor's camps, for example. Kavanagh describes it as updating the software without damaging the hardware, and it's just like going through the motions of a fight without taking any damage. And Holloway, as mentioned, doesn't spar at all in his camps anymore. His performance in the octagon is so impressive you cannot say that not getting this close to combat enactment is having a negative effect. And the reason Holloway stopped sparring was brain health related. He said, "Save your chickens, y'all." Need I say any more? Oh, I do need. He went on to embellish, "You guys only get one brain. Save it. You don't need to do it. You sparred enough, you trained enough, you know how to punch someone, you know how to slip a punch. Why even take unnecessary damage before the main game? Protect you guys' head. Figure out a way of taking less damage. You want to be in this game for a long time." Max is the fucking man, you know? Alongside not taking knocks to the noggin, Holloway, like many others, including Adesanya, Wonderboy, Charles Jourdain, Robert Whittaker and Dominic Reyes, have all spoken about the importance of talking to people about how you're feeling. Which seems obvious. We've heard it before. We know it's good for us, but how many of us are actually doing it? Especially those of us, you, that do feel the need to put across this kind of hardened, more traditionally resilient image. Whether it be a small group of positive people that you keep around you, your family, or a professional, it helps. It helps with your mental health. Other advice from famous fighting faces include grounding in nature, spending time in the great outdoors, spending time with animals, focusing on your blessings, regularly checking in with how you're feeling and allowing yourself to respond with exactly what you need in that moment. And of course, finding the right physical outlet for you. It could be that martial arts is going to be the best thing for your mental health, but it doesn't come without risk and you shouldn't ignore that. If you enjoyed this, make sure to check out my MMA mindset video where we dive deeper into the anxiety that comes along with this high pressure situation and how some of the best fighters in the world turn the beat around and use it to their advantage. I'll link it for you on the end screen. Oh, And remember,
take care, you guys melons. Take care, you guys melons. Take care, you guys melons.